In today's tutorial, we're going to look at polynomial functions. Now, what are polynomial functions? A polynomial function or polynomial functions are expressions that may contain variables of varying degrees, coefficients, positive exponents, and constants. Consider a function f of x equals 3x squared minus 5. This is an example of a polynomial function as it contains a coefficient of the variable x3 as 3 and the positive exponent which is positive 2 and a constant which is negative 5. Let's consider another function h of x equals 3 exponent 4 3x exponent 4 plus 7x exponent 3 minus 12x exponent 2 plus 2x plus 1. This is also an example of a polynomial function, and this particular function contains the coefficients of the variables to be 3, 7, negative 12, positive 2, and then the exponent parts are positive 4, positive 3, positive 2, and positive 1 here. And of course, the last exponents of the x here is supposed to be x exponent 0, and that gives us 1, which is same as 1 times 1. And this place can be omitted and it gives 1. Now, we can also have a polynomial function written in this way. G of x equals negative 7 x exponent 3 plus 1 on 2 x minus 7. This is also a typical example of a polynomial functions. So the exponents of the variables are not strictly not to be in order like this form. Can also take another form like this. Moreover, we can also have a polynomial function to be 8x exponent 4 minus 3. This is also a typical example of a polynomial function. Okay. Now, in polynomial functions, the coefficients cannot be 0, and n is the coefficients can't be equal to 0, and if that is the case, then it's called the leading coefficient. So the leading coefficient for the first part here cannot be 0. So once it is equal to 0, then we don't have a polynomial function. The degree of a polynomial function is the highest exponent or the highest power of the variable as it's raised to. So consider a polynomial function g h of x equals 3 exponent 3 minus 2x exponent 2 plus 5. Now, to find the degree, as I've already stated that the degree of a polynomial function is the highest power of the variable as it's raised to. So in this polynomial function, the highest power is 3. For that matter, the degree of this polynomial function is 3. Alright. Now, we have types of polynomial functions. Now, the type of a polynomial function is determined by the number of terms the polynomial has. Types of polynomial function. Okay, so if we have a polynomial function that contains one term, then that polynomial function is called a monomial. So example is 15 x squared 3b and 12y exponent 4. These are all monomial polynomial functions since they all contains one term here. Moreover, if the polynomial contains two terms, then that polynomial function is called a binomial polynomial function. And examples, you can have examples like x plus y. You can also have 4x minus 7, 9x plus 2. These are all binomial polynomial functions. As the name implies, binomial means two binomial polynomial functions. These functions contains two terms. Now, if the terms are three, then that particular polynomial is called a trinomial. So if you have x exponent 3 minus 3 plus 5x is an example of a trinomial. You can also have z exponent 4 plus 45 plus 3z. These are all trinomial polynomial functions. Okay, so that is how we can also classify a polynomial function into. Now, we can also classify polynomial functions based on their degrees. And for classifying polynomial function based on their degrees, we're going to have four common types of polynomial functions. Now, the first one is called zero. So let me say we want to classify based on degrees. So classifying polynomial functions based on degrees. So we have what we call a zero polynomial function. A zero polynomial function. Zero polynomial function. Now, what is a zero polynomial function? Now, a zero polynomial function is always of the form f of x equals to 0. So if I have any polynomial function where the function equals to 0 and it just contains 0 and no other term or variable, since f of x equals to a, then the constant is the constant function. Now it is a constant function, so f of x being equal to 0 and it's just 0 and no other term, then that particular function is called a zero polynomial function. In our subsequent videos, we look at into details what a zero polynomial function means. Then we also have linear polynomial functions. So polynomial linear polynomial functions. Okay, so if a function has a degree of 1, sorry, if a function has a degree of 1, if a function has a degree, foolish boy, the thing I'm using to write in this class article. Now, we also have a linear polynomial function. Now, if a function has a degree of 1, then that particular function is called a linear polynomial function. So a linear polynomial function is always in the form f of x equals ax plus b. So we can have examples like f of x equals x plus 3. We can also have h of y equals 8y minus 3. So the function is of y. Then the last one based on degree is also called is called a cubic polynomial function. So cubic polynomial function. Cubic polynomial function. So of course, as the name implies, for a cubic polynomial functions, we have the function to be of degree 3. So if a function has a degree of 3, that function is called a cubic polynomial function. So a cubic polynomial function is of the form f of x equals ax exponent 3 plus bx exponent 2 plus cx plus d. So this is the form that a cubic polynomial functions assume. Since the highest degree is 3, this type of polynomial function is called a cubic polynomial function. It's called a cubic polynomial function. So we're going to have examples of cubic polynomial functions as um, f of y equals 4y cubed. Can also have f of a equals 3a plus a exponent 3. Can as well as have f of y equals 15y exponent 3 minus y exponent 2 plus 10. So these are all examples of cubic polynomial functions. Okay.